Welcome back, everybody. We are diving deep today into how software is changing, how properties are managed, the whole property management industry. And get this, we've got a great report from Meritorious Consultants, LLC.
It really does lay out the landscape well.
Oh, it does. And you will not believe some of the things in this report. I'm telling you.
It is a really exciting time to be working in this field, that's for sure. Property management has always been kind of a juggling act,
Oh, tell me about it.
but these new software solutions, well, they are really, completely changing the game.
See, this is why I love these deep dives. Managing properties. Well, it just involves so many different, moving parts
Yeah.
from like screening tenants and dealing with all the leases. And then you've got to stay on top of all the maintenance and then the finances. It can be overwhelming.
It absolutely can. And that's exactly where property management software comes in.
Yeah.
It's kind of like having a super efficient assistant who can deal with all those tedious tasks. And then on top of that, you know what? They give you insights you wouldn't have otherwise.
Wow. Okay, so let's actually talk about some of these tasks.
Okay.
Meritorious Consultants, they highlight a lot of different features in this report that are like streamlining the entire process. So for example, they talk about collecting rent online.
Right.
So no more chasing down checks, no more dealing with late payments.
Oh, it's so much more than just being convenient, though.
Really?
Think about it, like from a financial management perspective,
Right. Yeah.
This real-time payment data, well, it lets property managers track cash flow way more accurately.
All right.
They can forecast their revenue, and they could even, offer tenants more flexible payment options.
Wow, that's interesting. And speaking of making things easier for tenants, the report also talks about online portals that you can use for like maintenance requests.
Yeah, yeah.
So can you imagine no more phone calls at 3 in the morning because of a leaky faucet?
Right. So tenants can submit requests online, attach photos, and they can even get this track the progress of their repair.
Oh, wow.
So not only does it create a better experience for, the tenants, but it also helps property managers prioritize, like, how they're going to manage maintenance a lot more effectively.
Now, Meritorious Consultants, they actually say that improved tenant satisfaction is one of the key benefits of using this type of software. They also mention things like enhanced financial management, with more transparency and the ability to scale your operations without having to like drown in paperwork.
And what's really interesting is how this technology is making things more fair.
Okay.
It's not just like the big property management firms that can afford these really complex solutions anymore.
Yeah.
Small to medium-sized businesses are also now starting to use this, so they are getting access to these tools that they couldn't afford before.
So it's kind of like democratizing the whole industry.
It is.
Okay. Now, Meritorious Consultants, they list a bunch of popular software options like Buildium, Appfolio, Propertyware, Yardi Voyager, and Tenant Cloud.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's something out there for everybody, no matter, what your budget is or how big your portfolio is.
Yeah. And choosing the right software, it's really important. The report really stresses how important it is to, consider what your specific needs are and what your priorities are,
Yeah.
Like, do you really need to have, robust accounting features? What about really good communication tools for your tenants? Do you need to integrate it with other systems you're using already? These are things you really have to think about.
And of course, it needs to be easy to use.
Of course.
I mean, it doesn't matter how great the software is if nobody on your team can figure out how to use it.
Exactly.
So from your point of view, what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're trying to choose property management software?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think one of the most common mistakes is just focusing on the price and not thinking about the long-term value or what the software can actually do.
I see. It's like going out and buying the cheapest car without thinking about, gas mileage or repair costs.
Exactly. Another mistake is not getting your team on board.
Ah, okay.
The best implementations of software like this involve everyone right from the start. That way, you can make sure the software actually meets everyone's needs and that they're, comfortable using it.
So you have to communicate and you have to train everybody.
Absolutely. And also thinking about how the software will work with the systems you're already using.
Yeah.
You don't want to create a situation where your data is all over the place or make your work more complicated.
Yeah, it's all about finding the right fit.
It is.
Now, what really got my attention in the report was the part about future trends. Meritorious Consultants talk about things like AI, artificial intelligence, and blockchain technology. It seems like we're about to see some major technological changes in this industry.
We are.
Mm.
And that's where things start to get really interesting.
Okay, like what?
Imagine, like, software that can tell you about maintenance issues before they even happen.
Wow.
Or it could analyze all the data about your tenants to, like, personalize their whole experience.
Uh-huh.
Or what about automating those super complex transactions?
Yeah, that does sound incredible. But hold on, let's slow down a bit and unpack all of this.
Sure.
Let's start with AI. How is that going to change the way properties are managed?
Well, first of all, think about predictive maintenance.
Okay.
AI algorithms, they can analyze data from sensors in your buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And that can help them identify patterns that tell us there might be a problem.
So you're saying that we could actually catch a leaky pipe before it turns into a huge flood?
Exactly. And it's not just about plumbing either.
Really?
AI can watch over your HVAC systems, the electrical panels, appliances, you name it.
Wow.
This is going to save property managers so much money on repairs. And nobody will have to deal with those emergency calls in the middle of the night anymore.
So it's like having a virtual building superintendent who can keep an eye on everything all the time.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's incredible.
And it can also help us use energy more efficiently.
Okay, how?
By optimizing building systems, based on real-time data, AI can help us use less energy, lower everybody's utility bills, and help us manage properties in a way that's better for the environment.
This is starting to sound like something out of the future. What about the impact on how we deal with tenants? You mentioned personalized experiences. What does that look like?
Well, imagine AI analyzing how tenants communicate.
Okay.
So it figures out like what their preferences are, what they need.
Yeah.
And property managers could use this information to offer services ahead of time or even deal with concerns before they become big problems.
So, for instance, if a tenant keeps putting in maintenance requests for their air conditioner, the system might pick up on that and suggest a checkup before anything breaks down.
Exactly. Or it could notice that a tenant is having trouble paying their rent and then offer them some resources or more flexible payment options. It's all about using data to be more helpful and responsive.
It seems like this could really change the whole landlord-tenant relationship, making it more like working together instead of being against each other. But I do wonder, are there any downsides? Does collecting all this data bring up any privacy issues?
Yeah, that's a legitimate concern, and we need to be careful about it. It's super important to have strong data security and to be open with tenants about how their data is being used.
So managing that data responsibly is really important. Now let's switch gears to blockchain. I'll be honest, I'm still trying to figure out how this technology fits into property management. Can you explain it simply?
Sure. Think of blockchain like a digital ledger that's super secure.
Okay.
It keeps track of all the transactions in a way that's totally transparent and nobody can tamper with it. When we talk about property management, this could totally revolutionize things like lease agreements and how rent is paid.
Interesting. How so?
Okay, picture this. Lease agreements stored on a blockchain, so everybody involved can see them. No more piles of papers, no more arguing about what the agreement says. Everything's safe and easy to find.
So it gets rid of the possibility of fraud or people misunderstanding each other.
Exactly. And rent payments. They could be automated using what are called smart contracts.
Okay, I've heard of those.
These contracts basically run themselves, so they automatically trigger payments when certain conditions are met.
So if a tenant's rent is due on the first of the month, the smart contract would take the payment from their account and send it to the landlord automatically.
You got it. This gets rid of delays, makes missed payments less likely, and makes the whole system more streamlined and efficient for everybody.
This is all so fascinating. It seems like we're just beginning to understand what's possible with these new technologies.
We really are. And that's what makes this such an exciting time to be working in property management. What we're seeing today has the potential to completely change the industry, creating new opportunities and, of course, new challenges.
I am definitely ready to learn more about those opportunities and challenges. But for now, let's take a short break. When we get back, we'll really dive into how these technologies are being put into practice and what kind of impact they'll have on both property managers and tenants. Welcome back, everyone. Before the break, we were talking about, well, I guess you could say, some pretty incredible advances in property management software.
Yeah.
You know, AI that could figure out what kind of maintenance is needed and blockchain technology that's changing everything about leases, like the whole thing.
Yeah, and this isn't just some, pie in the sky stuff.
Right.
These technologies are already being used out in the real world.
Oh, wow.
They're changing how properties are being managed and how tenants and landlords are interacting with each other.
You know, that's what I find so interesting about this whole thing. It's
Yeah.
not just about having the latest gadgets or anything like that.
Right.
It's really about solving real-world problems and making things better for everyone involved.
Right. It is. Take tenant screening, for example. It's always been such a time-consuming process, and honestly, a lot of times it's not very reliable.
Yeah.
But now we have AI-powered software.
Uh-huh.
We can use that to analyze tons of data
Yeah.
and figure out if a tenant is risky in a much better and faster way.
So instead of just looking at credit scores and background checks, these AI systems can actually look at other things too.
Yes.
Like what?
Like they could look at someone's employment history, their social media activity, even what people are saying about them in online reviews.
Wow.
So it's like getting a much bigger picture of who this potential tenant really is.
And that helps property managers make smarter choices.
Exactly.
So there are fewer evictions, fewer late rent payments, and less damage to the properties.
Yes.
So it sounds like everyone wins, both the landlords and the good tenants, right?
Right. But I can imagine that some people might be worried about using AI for something like this.
Like,
What about bias? Can we be sure that these algorithms aren't biased against certain groups of people?
that's a really good point.
It's definitely something that the industry is aware of and working on.
Oh, okay.
The developers who make this software are trying hard to make sure these AI systems are fair to everyone. They use lots of different types of data and test the systems carefully to make sure they don't discriminate against anyone.
So being transparent and making sure everything is ethical is super important.
Extremely important. And we also have to remember that AI is just a tool,
Yeah.
like any tool. It can be used in good ways or bad ways.
Right.
It's up to us humans to make sure it's being used for the right reasons and in the right way.
Okay, now I want to talk about something else that's really changing things in property management.
Okay, what's that?
Mobile technology. You know, everyone's using their phones and tablets for everything these days.
True.
And Meritorious consultants, they really stress how important it is to have what they call mobile-first solutions. What does that even mean?
It means that both property managers and tenants need to be able to access information and tools from anywhere, using any device.
Yeah.
So think about it. A property manager could be walking their dog, and at the same time, they could be using their phone to approve maintenance requests, check financial reports, even talk to tenants.
Wow. That's a big change from the old days when you'd be stuck at your desk going through stacks of paperwork.
Right. And for tenants, they can use mobile apps to see their account information, pay their rent, and even submit maintenance requests. It's all about making things easier and keeping everyone connected.
So it's about giving both sides more control.
It is. And this whole mobile first thing, it's only going to become more important as technology gets better and better.
I can see that.
More and more. People want solutions that are easy to use, work on all their devices, and fit right into their everyday lives.
It seems like the whole industry is becoming more flexible and responsive because of these technological advancements.
It is.
Now, you mentioned sustainability earlier, and I want to go back to that. How can property management software actually help us manage buildings in a way that's better for the environment?
Well, there are actually a few ways.
Okay.
Like we said, AI can help us tweak building systems so they use less energy.
Right.
But software can also help us manage waste better, save water, and even encourage tenants to use transportation that's good for the environment.
So it's not just about energy efficiency, it's about looking at the whole picture when it comes to sustainability.
Exactly. And this is one area where there are a lot of new and creative ideas coming out. For example, some platforms now have features that let tenants see how much energy they're using.
Oh,
Yeah, it gives them information and even rewards them for making choices that are good for the planet.
So it's kind of like turning sustainability into a game, which makes it more fun and rewarding for people?
It does. And that can have a ripple effect, encouraging more people to make sustainable choices throughout the whole community.
That's amazing. So it seems like property management software isn't just about making things automatic or more efficient. It's also about creating a more sustainable, connected, and fair experience for both property managers and tenants.
It is.
But with all this progress, we have to face some new challenges too, right?
Of course. I think one of the biggest challenges is cybersecurity.
Ah, yeah.
As we start using digital systems more and more, there's always the chance of data breaches and cyber attacks.
Right.
It's so important for property managers to have really strong security measures in place
Right.
and to teach their teams how to keep information safe.
So protecting data is absolutely crucial.
Absolutely. Another thing we have to think about is cost. Some of this really advanced software can be pretty expensive.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And that could make it hard for smaller property owners or managers to afford it.
So it could actually make the inequalities that already exist in the industry even worse.
That's a worry, and it's something we need to address. But the good news is there are also a lot of more affordable solutions becoming available.
Okay.
And as this technology gets more developed, we can expect prices to go down as well.
That's good to hear. So it's
Yeah.
about striking a balance between being innovative and making these tools accessible to everyone.
Exactly. And that's where it's important for the industry to work together and for the government to offer support.
Yeah.
By encouraging new ideas while also making sure everyone has access to the technology, we can create a future where property management is more efficient, sustainable, and fair for everyone.
That's a great point. Now, I want to bring up another potential challenge. What about the human element?
Right.
As AI and automation take over more and more tasks, some people might worry that their jobs are at risk.
It's understandable to be concerned about that, but I really believe that technology will end up creating more jobs than it gets rid of.
Okay.
The key is for property managers to adapt, learn new skills, and focus on the areas where human interaction and expertise are still super important.
So instead of replacing humans, technology can actually help them do their jobs better.
Exactly. It's like a team effort between humans and machines.
Yeah.
But we need to shift our thinking a bit. Property managers have to be willing to keep learning, keep developing their skills so they can stay ahead of the curve.
So they need to become tech savvy, but also keep working on those people skills that are so important in this business.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. The property managers who will really succeed in the future are the ones who can combine their understanding of technology with their ability to connect with people and understand their needs.
That's a really great message. So it's not humans against machines.
Right.
It's about humans and machines working together to create a better future for property management.
Absolutely. I truly believe that working together like this can make things better for everyone involved.
Now, before we wrap up this whole deep dive, I have one last question for you.
Okay, shoot.
We've covered a lot today, from AI that can screen tenants to leases that are based on blockchain technology.
We have.
In your opinion, what's the most exciting thing happening in property management software right now? What's on the horizon?
That's a tough one, but I'd have to say it's the metaverse. Yeah, think about it. Imagine property managers being able to give virtual tours, show off properties in 3D so you feel like you're really there, even meet with tenants in virtual spaces.
Wow, that sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
I know, right? But the technology to do this is developing so fast, and I really think the metaverse is going to have a huge impact on how properties are managed in the future.
That's an incredible thought. Okay, well, we have really covered a lot today, from all the little details of property management software to these incredible possibilities with AI, blockchain, and even the metaverse. It's pretty clear that this industry is about to go through some massive changes, and I'm really excited to see what happens next.
Me too. It's going to be very interesting. And as we move forward, I think it's important to keep in mind that technology is a tool. How it affects us really depends on how we decide to use it. If we are open to new ideas, work together, and use this technology in a way that's ethical and responsible, we can use these advancements to make property management better for everyone.
I love that. That's a fantastic point. Well, this brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of property management software. But before we say goodbye, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. With all this tech changing so fast, how do we make sure that it actually helps both sides, the property managers and the tenants? How do we make sure everyone benefits?
That's the big question, right? It's like finding that balance,
Yeah.
where all this cool new tech actually makes life better for everyone involved.
Right.
For property managers, it's about using these tools to make their jobs easier, save some money, and in the end, give their tenants better service.
And for tenants, it's about things being easier and more transparent. They want to feel like they can get things done quickly and easily.
It's about feeling in control of their living space in a way they couldn't before.
Exactly. But both sides have to, be aware and involved.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Tenants need to understand how this technology works, what kind of information it's gathering, and how that information is being used.
Definitely. And property managers need to be upfront about all of that.
Yeah.
They have to make sure the data is secure and use the technology in a way that's ethical and responsible. It's a two-way street.
It really is, and that's why I think these kinds of conversations are so important.
Absolutely.
We need to be talking about these things, figuring out the good and the bad that comes with all this progress, and working together so that technology actually makes the housing experience better for everyone.
I agree.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap things up. We've covered a lot today, haven't we? We talked about the ins and outs of property management software. Then we got into the really cool stuff with AI, blockchain, and even the metaverse.
It's a lot to take in.
This whole industry is about to change in a really big way, and I'm really curious to see where it all goes.
Me too. It's an exciting time. And as we move forward, I think the important thing is to stay curious, keep learning about all this new stuff, and be part of the conversation. The future of property management is happening now, and we can all do our part to make sure it's a good one.
I love that. Could have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us today on this deep dive into the world of property management software. We hope you learned some new things, got some new insights, and maybe even feel inspired to learn more. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.